Hey guys, we are back with day 3 of the holiday hangover sensitivity recovery camp. I'm so excited. I hope you guys have been enjoying the last couple of days. I hope that this content has been really helpful for you. I've got lots more amazing stuff to talk to you guys about today. And just to let you know, once again, all the replays will be available. You can have them for life. You can watch them whenever you would like. If you do have any questions that come up, feel free to tag me in the comments, even if you are watching the replay, so that I can come and support you and make sure your questions get answered. If you are brand new to me, if you just kind of stumbled upon this video, my name is Amber Rochelle. I'm an intuitive life coach who works with highly sensitive women. The work that I do is really about maximizing the benefits and minimizing the challenges of being a sensitive woman in this world. And so this holiday camp is really about how we can kind of check in with ourselves after the holidays, which is typically the most stressful time of the year for us, which is ironic, right? Because it's supposed to be the happiest time of the year. And it's not that as a sensitive you can't enjoy the holidays. Of course we can. But it's just that it brings a lot of extra stressors with it. And there's a lot of extra pressure that comes with the holidays. And as we're moving into the new year, we really want to utilize this time to recharge our batteries and also really set ourselves up for a successful 2018. And when I say successful, I don't just mean successful in terms of career. I mean successful in terms of being really, truly happy and taking really good care of ourselves and really living our purpose and living the most intentional, authentic life that we can. So that is what this workshop has been all about. So today, let's pull up my outline. So today we are going to get really excited about entering the new year, right, with a fully recharged spirit. We're going to cover how to stand up for your sensitivity. So how to communicate to your loved ones what it's like to be sensitive so that they can start to understand who you are and how you experience the world better. We kind of touched on this the other day, but I will go a little bit deeper into having a relationship with yourself and how to weave that into your self-care routine. And really, most importantly, we're going to be talking about today how you no longer need to look outside of yourself for the answers. Everything that you need to know is within you. You have your own built-in inner compass and inner guide. And the work that I do is really about bringing women back home to themselves, to their truth, and to a really strengthened belief in their own worthiness without having to do anything or prove themselves. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And again, this is really about learning how to love the thin skin that you're in. It's learning how to navigate the world with the thin skin you're in, rather than trying to grow a thicker skin or toughen up or have to change or fight against your true nature to be, happy and successful in this world, because that really doesn't work. It's about accepting who you truly are, understanding who you truly are, understanding, the ins and outs of your sensitive nature so that you can create a world that works for you instead of trying to hammer yourself like a square peg into a circular hole, right? It's time to create a life that really supports you and your sensitivity for who you truly are without having to change your true nature, which you can't really do anyways, right? So that's a lot of what we've been talking about in this workshop. And so I'm just going to go a little bit deeper into some of these things in today's workshop. So I wanted to kind of start out because I recognize that I haven't mentioned this before. And if you guys have been following me for a while, if you're in my Facebook group, the Super Sensitives, or have seen any of my work, you know that I always say that sensitivity is a superpower. You may have heard that before from other people or from other coaches, but I just wanted to give you an idea of why I personally believe that it is a superpower and why, I say that so often when I'm talking to you guys. So part of it is that, we get so much feedback from the world around us, which we've been talking about during this whole workshop of, how we're weak, right? Because we're emotional. And there's unfortunately this misperception that showing emotions makes you weak. Well, it's actually the opposite. It takes so much more strength to be vulnerable, to be honest, to allow yourself to feel your emotions. That's brave. That is bravery. So we are actually, I think, people who are willing to make themselves vulnerable and talk about their feelings stronger than somebody who's like, no, I'm going to push that shit down. I got to pull myself up by my bootstraps, right? I don't need any help. It takes strength to ask for help. It takes strength to admit when you're struggling. And much more beyond that, because we have this extra layer of stuff that we have to deal with, which is part of the reason why a lot of people think that being sensitive is a curse, because there is a lot of challenges that come with it, right? That's a fact. It's just true. We all know this. It can be really, really difficult when you're picking up the emotions and negative energies of everybody around you, and also taking in so much information about the world around you. And then people tell us that we're weak, and it's like, no. We are actually extra strong because we're doing all the things that everybody else is doing, but we're carrying this extra load on our shoulders, right? So you can shift your perspective. You can start to see the true strength that you have within you already. And the reason why, that, and also the reason why I say this is a superpower is because if you think about it, and okay, I'm kind of like a fantasy nerd, like I love fairies and I love mermaids and unicorns and all of that type of stuff. So this, and superheroes, so this terminology really resonated with me when I first started thinking about it this way. But we literally have an extra layer of sensing. It's like a sixth sense. We pick up information, feelings, energies from the world around us. Hi, Hannah. Yes, it is. Hannah's just saying, yeah, she believes it's a gift, but it's just very frustrating. And it can be, it really can. But we have this extra layer of sensing, right? Which can make life difficult, but also if you think about it, like that's really cool. Like we have this awesome thing that we can do that other people can't, right? And it's not that it makes us better than anybody else. I mean, if you think about it, some people are naturally gifted basketball stars, for example, or naturally gifted artists, right? Well, this is our gift. Our gift is our capacity to feel and to sense things around us that other people can't. I mean, I could totally see that being in a comic book. In fact, if you guys have not seen Guardians of the Galaxy or Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I highly recommend you go see it because there is a superhero empath character in there, which is really amazing. But so anyways, it's really helpful for us to start to look at it this way because it's shifting our perspective from focusing on the things that are hard about it and recognizing the things that are really cool about it. And when I was in coaching school, when I was first getting trained to be a life coach, there was this amazing woman that I was in school with, and she had said to me, "Man, you are just so sensitive. I think that's so awesome." And it was the first time that, because normally people would be like, "God, you're really sensitive," right? So it was the first time that I had had somebody say that to me in that tone of like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I was kind of like, what? And then, we were talking about it and she was like, yeah, she's like, it's like you're one of the X-Men. You have this superpower, but if you don't learn how to handle it and understand it, it can destroy you. And I love that metaphor that she gave me because it's very, very true. When we are sensitive and we have not, and it's nobody's fault, it's just that this stuff isn't taught very often, but when you are sensitive and you have not learned how to work with it instead of against it, it will show up as a curse. I mean, you'll still get the gifts of it, but you're going to be more focused on the hardships of it because they're right there in your face and it's really, really difficult, right? But when you start to learn this stuff and start to come back to yourself and trust yourself more and recreate your relationship with yourself and understand your needs and be willing to meet those needs, then that's when your powers can really shine, right? Then that's when, yes, stuff will still frustrate you. You will still pick up on the energies of others. I still do too, but now I know how to quickly move through that. I know when it's happening, I'm aware of it. I know what to do about it, right? So this is the work, because once you can get out of that place of feeling like a victim, because it's so difficult and there's so much coming at you, then you take your power back, right? And then you start to recognize that you have this really beautiful gift. And that is when everything starts to change. One of the things that can start to change when we really start to own our power as sensitives is the way that other people treat us. So there is a saying, you teach people how to treat you. And unfortunately, that is very often true. So when we have gone through our lives feeling like something is deeply inherently wrong with us, and it makes so much sense why we feel that way, right? When you go back and you look at it through a new, fresh perspective, it's like, well, of course I felt that way because everybody was treating me like I was an alien, or like there was something weird about me or off about me. So of course you felt that way. But when we go through life feeling that way, we're very often chasing our worth and trying to prove our worth. And in that, we are putting everybody else before us because we want so badly to make people happy, but we also want to belong. We want to be accepted, right? And for us sensitives, the most natural thing that we know how to do is to give, because that's a really beautiful part of who we are. We're natural givers. But when we're always putting ourselves last and making ourselves a doormat, people get used to that, right? They get used to that. And when we are ashamed of our own sensitivity, when we are ashamed of who we truly are, we are reflecting that out to the world, right? But when you come back to a place where you're like, no, I'm going to start putting my needs first. I'm going to start taking care of myself. And you really start to see the beauty of being sensitive and really, really, really like owning that, having that embodied in you. The way people treat you will start to change. I'm not going to say that people won't still make snide comments about your emotions, but you will see the way that people interact with you will change without you saying a single word to them. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about how you talk to yourself. It's about how you talk about yourself, right? And then furthermore, to kind of get into the relationship thing, because this is really big for a lot of us. I dated a lot of men who were pretty cruel to me about my sensitivity, right? And I had low self-esteem, and so I let them treat me that way because I thought, oh yeah, they're right. They're totally right. I am too emotional. I do overreact. I am very dramatic, but I never really knew how to explain to them, like, first of all, ew, don't talk to me like that, right? And second of all, that no, like, you just don't understand what it feels like to process the world as a sensitive person, right? And now, I have a beautiful, amazing fiance now, but it took him a while. We've been together almost 10 years. It took him a while. But the thing is that instead of letting people talk you out of your truth, right? And instead of letting people like ostracize you and criticize you for your feelings, you can just be like, no, I actually have this really cool thing. Have you heard of what it means to be highly sensitive? Literally just be like, have you heard of this? And, some people, you can't control how anybody's going to react, but somebody that truly deeply loves you, a really good friend or a relative or a partner, right, is going to want to understand you. They're going to want to learn about you. They're going to want to learn about how you experience the world. Because when somebody truly deeply loves you, at least if they're in a healthy place with themselves, that's part of being a partner, right? That's part of being a friend. That's part of being, having a relationship with somebody is wanting to understand them so that you can be the best friend, partner, whatever to them. So I have literally sent articles to friends of mine who were kind of like, I don't really get this whole sensitive thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let me teach you about it, right? Like, let me tell you about it. There's so many articles out there. And if you guys want, I can post some that you can, and it's interesting too, because I think I said this in the first day. There's two very different perspectives kind of on being sensitive and being an empath. And one is very much, kind of a brain science, a sort of scientific, like, here's how your brain is processing information. Here's how your neurons are firing, right? And then there's also the very kind of like spiritual perspective of being an empath and really, taking in and absorbing other people's emotions and having a more porous aura. And, there's the two perspectives. So it's interesting because when I first started, really standing up for my sensitivity and teaching people about it, I would kind of tune into like what I thought they would resonate with more, right? Like, a lot of my friends were a little bit more like scientifically minded. And so when I sent them these articles that explained the brain science, they were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's really kind of cool, right? Or there's a more spiritual perspective, which might resonate with other people. But the point of all of this is that instead of, feeling bad, like, oh God, people don't understand me, I don't fit in, like, teach people about who you are, teach people about what it's like to be sensitive. It's cool. Like, people get kind of interested in it, and then they'll be like, oh my God, I understand you so much better now. Like, I understand why you're like this, right? Instead of like, I don't get you, like, what's your deal, right? So we need to, as a whole, as a tribe of sensitives, start educating the world about who we are and why we are the way that we are, so that we can start to change the narrative in society, right? And I believe this is possible, and it's one person at a time. Each one of us that stands up for our sensitive nature, we are collectively changing the way that our society looks at it, right? Like when you stand up for you, you're standing up for every other sensitive person out there. And this is not to say that people who don't understand our sensitivity are bad or mean. Not at all. I would say 99.9% of the time, it really is not about you, it's about them. It's triggering something in them. They are, the emotions scare them perhaps, or they literally just don't understand, and their comments are not meant to be mean. It's just that they're confused and they don't know how to react because they're not used to being around somebody that processes emotions the way that you do, right? So this is not about blaming people who don't get it. It's about like standing up for yourself and taking care of yourself, right? And being like, no, I'm going to teach people about this because I have this really cool thing. So it's just a perspective shift, right? Oh, hi, Joanne. Please post the articles. Yes. What tips do you have to be less dramatic? I'm told I'm that way all the time, and one thing that affects my relationships, and I want to change it. So a couple of things here. This is a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been told that I was dramatic. And, I actually don't get told that so much anymore. But the biggest thing that's changed is how I relate to myself. And so a lot of this is, if you think about swimming upstream in a river, right? If you're fighting the current, that's going to be a really rough road for you. But if you let go and surrender and just go with it, it's going to start to flow. Things are going to start to flow for you. So if you are fighting your sensitivity, if you are trying to change the true nature of who you are for other people, you are going to appear as quote unquote more dramatic. Now, I don't necessarily think, I think when people say that, it can be cruel. It can be really cruel. Not to say that people can't actually be dramatic, because there's a lot of dramatic people out there. But Joanne, I don't think, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, honey. I don't think that you, and I don't even know you, right? But like just knowing what I know about sensitive people, I doubt that you are actually really dramatic. The thing is that when we're not taking care of ourselves as sensitives, we become more reactive, right? Because if we're not caring for our emotions on a regular basis and doing, like I talked about yesterday, the proactive self-care, right? And being really diligent about setting ourselves up with those strong roots, then we are going to be knocked off our center more easily. And what I mean by knocked off our center is that things will upset us more, right? And it's harder for us to bounce back from things. It's harder for us to be resilient if we don't have that foundation to come from. And that is what people see as dramatic. It's not that you're being dramatic, but people can see it that way because you're reactive, right? Because you don't have that solid base to fall back on. So I hope that makes sense. And I will definitely post articles for you. And and so it's not about you needing to be less dramatic, hon. It's about you really accepting and loving who you truly are, and not trying to change for the people that are telling you that you're dramatic, right? But to stand up for yourself, because the more that you take care of yourself, the less you are going to feel reactive, the less things are going to trigger you so much, right? It's not that you won't still have big, deep feelings. You're sensitive. That's part of it, right? You're always going to be a big, deep feeler, but your reactions to those feelings will change. The way that you deal with those feelings will change. And that's really where the magic kind of happens. It's like you'll still pick up on other people's energies, but what you do with it and what you know how to do with it will change. Or, you will still get really hurt by things or get really upset about things, but how you react to that will change. And so that's really where the work is. Hannah says, I frequently encounter people who come back at me with claims that they are highly sensitive, as if I'm trying to say I'm better than them and they want in. How can I handle that well? That's also an amazing question. Thank you for asking that, Hannah. I have encountered that as well. And, I think you can explain to them, I don't know, I think you were on when I said this earlier, but you can explain it to them just like this. You can say, I'm definitely not trying to say that I'm better than anybody else, right? Everybody has their own natural gifts. Like some people are great actors, some people are great writers, some people are great artists. Well, you are a great sensor, right? So it's not that you're trying to say that, you know, this makes you elite somehow or like above people, right? And you can literally explain this to them, to people that react to you that way, and say, it's just that, like, this is my gift and I'm proud of it and I want to talk about it and I want to explain it to you so that you understand what it's like to be me, right? Because I do think that one of the, not dangers, but we don't want, in trying to educate people about our sensitivity, we don't want them to feel like we're trying to make them feel inferior, right? And so, yeah, I do. I think it's a superpower. I really do. But, you know, I'm not trying to say to somebody else like, oh, I have this superpower and you have none. You know, I mean, you could look at anything as being a superpower, right? Like some people are amazing chefs. I am not. I cannot cook, you guys. That's not one of my gifts. Or, you know, some people can sing so well. I do not sing. I will only sing if I am in a huge crowd of karaoke and I've had a few drinks in me. Like, that's not one of my gifts, and I just have to accept that, right? So it's the same thing. So I think, Hannah, if you kind of put it in that way, you know, if you feel like somebody's getting triggered and trying to be like, well, what do you mean? I'm sensitive too. And, you know, just to reassure them that you're really not trying to say that you think that you're better. You're just trying to, you know, take pride in your gift and explain to them how you experience the world, because it's very, very, very different for us, the way that we experience the world versus the way that people that don't have this genetic trait do. So I hope that's helpful. Let me see. So I did talk about, I think I talked about on both days about having a relationship with yourself, but I kind of want to tie that back into this idea of, you know, not having to look outside of yourself for all of the answers, because we so often do that. And it's because it's kind of what we learned to do growing up, right? And because we're such good like feelers and sensors, and we're always kind of, you know, really looking for keys and clues and things in the world around us so that we know how to kind of like navigate. In fact, I like to think of it, I wrote a blog post a while back about being a sensitive chameleon, right? Like that was totally how I was for so long. I would change how I was behaving or how I was acting in accordance with whatever was going on in the room, right? To keep the peace, to make people happy, to make people like me, right? Because I could feel what was going on around me in the room. I could feel people's judgments or people's anger, or the tension, or any of those things, right? And so I would adapt to that to then, you know, kind of make the situation the best possible for everybody around me. But in that, I lost who I was, right? Because it was never about me. It was always about everybody else, and just kind of like carefully like walking on eggshells around everybody around me and making sure that I was making them happy and picking up on all their emotions and all of that, right? Now, I still use my chameleon skills sometimes, but in a much more empowering way, right? Because that ability that we have, that really kind of cool ability that we have to sort of like morph and sense and pick up on things can become very detrimental when we lose ourselves in it, right? When we are constantly shedding our own skin to be the right color for other people, or to be the right thing for other people, or to act the right way for other people, right? It becomes a way of life that gives us a sense of safety, because we feel like that way, you know, we're not rocking the boat, we're not going to piss anybody off. People will like us because we show up as what they want us to show up as, right? But what we need to do is build safety from the inside out, so that we don't have to do that, so that we don't have to morph ourselves and change, you know, shed our skin and change our colors all of the time. Because where are you in that, right? Like where are you in that, and where's your pride of who you actually are, you know? And if you start to look around, you'll notice that people that, you know, don't have this sensitive trait, and not all, I mean, we're not doing stereotypical blanket statements here, but this is just the norm, right? They're not really doing that. Like, they're not changing their colors to make you happy. You know, they're just being them, right? So that's where you want to get to. And then, you know, every once in a while, that skill can really come in handy, right? So it's not that there's anything wrong with kind of like using your like morphing skills. It's why you're doing it. It's where it comes from, right? Is it coming from a place of disempowerment, of feeling like you need to change yourself to be liked or loved or to belong? Or is it coming from a place of empowerment where you're using it to navigate through a situation, right? But you are still really connected to and really proud of and really loving who you actually are as a person. Because nothing feels worse than going through life feeling not good enough, feeling not worthy, feeling like there's something wrong with you, feeling like, you know, you constantly have to like change and prove yourself. And this makes me, see, now I'm going to cry. This makes me emotional, you guys, because I lived so much of my life like that. And I see so many of you out there doing the same thing. And I just want nothing more than for all of you guys to know that there is a different way and that you can't, I mean, if I can get to a place where I can look in the mirror and be like, I fucking love that woman. I am so proud of who I am. But if you had met me, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it was a very, very different story. So it is possible to completely change the way that you see yourself and completely change the way that you relate to yourself, because, you know, it's you get this one life, right? Or at least you get this one experience of this place in time. Like, don't waste it hating on yourself and trying to change who you are. Like, you're so important and you're so needed. And this world right now does not need more tough guys. We do not need more people with a thick skin. We need more people that are noticing what's going on. We need more people that are aware and in touch with their emotions and have the ability to be vulnerable and are able to see what's really going on in the world out there and tap into the dark places and have the desire and the motivation and the courage to get out there and make change, right? Because there's some crazy stuff going on out there right now. We need you. This world needs us sensitives. We are powerful visionaries and leaders and healers. And it's really important, you know, that not only for your own life and for your own happiness, but for the world at large, that we as sensitive women in particular really do this work to get out of our own way and to repair our relationships with ourselves and to heal the old stories and limiting beliefs that led us to have the destructive habits that we have with ourselves. And then, you know, kind of reteach ourselves, learn literally how to love ourselves and take care of ourselves as sensitive women. Because when we do that, we are magical creatures. I mean, you're still a magical creature, but it allows it to come out, right? And it's really a force to be reckoned with. And you guys, all that are watching this, have that within you, right? It's just that there's like clutter in the way. I was telling somebody the other day, sometimes I like to talk about the work that I do as a coach, as, you know, I'm your gardener. Like, I'm going to come in to your yard, right? This is your mind or your life. We're going to look at what's going on in there, because most likely it's overgrown with a lot of weeds that you did not plant, right? So those weeds are metaphors for the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself, or the negative beliefs that you have about yourself that you didn't want to put in there, right? Like, nobody purposely is like, oh, I think that I would like to hate my sensitivity. I think I would like to think I am ugly. Like, nobody wants that, right? So there's all this crap that has overgrown the truth of who we really are, right? So coaching, this work, is about coming in as partners and looking at your garden, you know, with curiosity, not judgment. We're not going to be like, ew, what happened here? We're going to be like, oh, okay, we got some work to do, but this is possible. Let's start cleaning this stuff out. Let's start looking at it. Let's identify where it came from. Let's do the healing work to let it go and process it. And then you get to decide what you want to plant there, right? You get to decide what beliefs you want to have and how they are going to, you know, how you can choose beliefs that are going to be more supportive, that are going to help lead to the kind of life that you want to live. And when it's, you know, and this is not, again, and I know I sound like a broken record, but none of this work is like one and done. It's not like you just like go in one time and like replant things and then leave it and it's just beautiful for life, right? That's not how gardening works. Like, you have to tend to your garden. But this is the coaching work. It's the big overhaul, right? It's like you hired a landscaper. Like, I'm your landscaper, and we're going to come in there and we are going to create this like garden of your dreams, and then equip you with the tools to tend to that garden moving forward, right? To keep an eye on it, to make sure that more weeds don't come in there, so that you can have a life that you are designing and that makes you happy and that sets you fucking free, right? So, sorry, that was You guys know I go on my tangents, but I get really passionate about this because it's deeply, deeply, deeply important. And it literally breaks my heart when I see people who are suffering the way that I used to be suffering, because I know what it feels like, and it is not fun. And it is not any kind of a way to go through life, you know? And you don't have to be at rock bottom. You don't have to be where I was at, like riddled with an eating disorder and, you know, self-harming and doing all this awful stuff. You don't have to be there to benefit from this work. It's not about like, you know, some dramatic crisis situation. I mean, yes, I needed a lot of help and a lot of work, and that was what saved me. But it can just be that like you're really struggling with your confidence, and you're struggling with accepting who you are, and your sensitivity is frustrating to you, you know, like Hannah said, it's frustrating, and you want to be able to deal with it better, and you're tired of being called dramatic, and, you know, you're tired of feeling like you have to change who you are all the time just to fit in, right? Like, you can benefit so much from this kind of work of, you know, having a supportive coach there to walk you through this stuff, because it's hard. I couldn't have gone through this alone. You know, there's no way. I went through years of therapy. I still have a coach, right? Like coaches have coaches. There's something really magical and beautiful about having somebody outside of you that can help reflect back to you what's going on, because it's really hard for us, especially as sensitives, to kind of evaluate and see where we're at when we're in the midst of it, right? Like coming back to the garden metaphor, if your garden is a fucking mess and overgrown with weeds, it's overwhelming. It's almost like you look at it and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to start, right? But to have somebody come in and help you create that vision and literally take you by the hand and walk you back home to your truth and to yourself, right? That's what this work is about. That is what I am so fucking passionate about. And that is what, you know, some amazing, wonderful, incredible healers did for me and taught me that that's possible, you know, and it sets you up for the rest of your life with this tool set and this unshakable, you know, confidence in yourself that is so fucking powerful. I mean, I can't even articulate how amazing, doing the self-growth work can be for you. Okay, I know I keep going off my outline. Okay, let me make sure that I am hitting everything I promised you guys I was going to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, so when it comes to, you know, looking outside yourself for the answers, one of the ways to start coming back to trusting yourself and trusting that you can trust your own sense of the world, you know, is like, as sensitives, we have a very, very, very powerful intuition. Very powerful. That's one of our greatest gifts, is our empathy and our intuition, right? But we oftentimes tune it out. We tune out that voice. We still hear the whispers, but we stopped listening to it a long time ago, right? So kind of a fun practice is the more that you spend time with yourself, right? The more that you nurture your relationship with yourself, like we were talking about the other day, which is literally hanging out with yourself, by yourself, you know, and journaling. Journaling is so powerful. Having conversations with yourself, you know, sitting in silence. And when I first started doing this, I shit you not, you guys, I literally had to sit on my hands because it was so hard for me to not do things, because I personally equated productivity with self-worth. So if I was busy, if I was doing something, if I was being productive, then I felt okay. Like I felt okay, you know, and it also, being very busy distracted me from the pain that I was feeling, that I was ignoring because I didn't want to admit that I had all these big feelings, right? This was just one of the ways that I kind of numbed out through sort of workaholism. And, you know, and to be perfectly honest, it still comes up for me today. I'm much more aware of it now, so I know how to address it. But like, that was one of the ways that I dealt. And so when I first started literally forcing myself to sit in silence and hang out with myself, I would sit on my hands, because if I didn't, I was like picking at my nails and I was picking at my earrings and I was doing all this. I could not sit still. It was uncomfortable for me to sit still because I was constantly trying to distract myself from the pain of being myself, right? And from all of the feelings that I hadn't felt yet, that I had pushed down and pushed down and pushed down over time. And so in the beginning, when you start to do this work, if this is new to you, If it's hard for you, don't be mad at yourself about that. Of course it's hard for you. It's new. It's a new skill, right? It really is a skill, learning how to be with yourself. So just know that can come up in the beginning, that it can be really hard to sit in silence. It can be really hard to be with yourself. And you just love the shit out of yourself through that, have compassion for yourself. Be like, of course, this is hard for me. I'm not used to this, and things come up in the silence, but that's why it's important. You want those things to come up. You want to start to hear what's going on in here, right? And you want to start to connect to that voice of your inner guide, like I was saying yesterday, so that you can start to hear that above all of the rest of the noise of the world. And then what I suggest you start doing is listening to your intuition. When you get that little nudge that's like, you shouldn't go to that party, or you should send that email, or I think something's going on with one of my friends, I should give them a call or whatever. Start trusting those nudges, follow them, and then record what happens. Because what you're going to start to see is that you're right and that you can trust that voice. Right? And if you literally write these things down and pay attention to them, like really work on listening to that soft voice within you, listen to it, follow what it says, and then see what happens. Because this is going to start to build trust and faith within you that like, oh, I actually do have a really powerful intuition. Maybe I can actually trust myself. Maybe I don't always have to look outside of myself for the answers, right? Maybe I can start to trust my own inner compass, and that will start to build that strength. And the more that you trust your inner voice, the louder she'll get, the more you'll be able to hear her, the more you will build a bond with her, right? And this starts to build a confidence in you that you may have never known before, right? Because when we're in a place of always looking outside of ourselves for, directions and answers and the truth, that's not, if you feel like you can't trust your own self, like how can you be confident, right? So this is just starting to build, like put together the building blocks of this confidence that I've been talking about, and this self-trust and this foundation and the roots, right? All of these things that we really, really need as sensitive women to feel safe in the world, to feel, to feel confident in the world, to feel like our voices matter, which they do extremely, very, very much, you guys. But, because we've been talked out of our own truth for so long, it just takes some time and a little bit of work to get back to that place where you're like, no, I don't have to always look outside for the answers. I can trust myself. I can trust my own ability to make decisions. I can trust my experience of the world. I can trust what I'm feeling. I can trust that I can, follow what I'm hearing in my intuition, in my inner voice. I can trust myself, right? You're smart, you're capable, you're resilient, you are stronger than you know. It's just that, you've gotten this feedback from the world around you that tells you the opposite, but it's not true. It's simply not true. It's just that, you haven't learned the tools yet. And when I say you, people who are listening, you may be at all sorts of different places on your journey. I'm just saying like for me, like, for a long time, I just didn't know. I didn't really understand what it meant to be sensitive. I didn't really understand, how to work with it and not against it, because I didn't even really know what was happening. I just knew that I felt everything and that I was weird and different. And, people found me dramatic and annoying and too emotional and too this and too that. And, and in the meantime, here I am sitting going, I'm not good enough. I suck. There's something wrong with me. I'm inherently flawed, right? So it's kind of ironic. But no matter where you're at with your sensitivity, like you can still really benefit from the self-growth work, even if you're not in a place where you completely hate it and you feel like you don't trust yourself, there's still a lot of work to be done. I'm literally obsessed with like self-help and self-growth work because I think that, we're always growing, we're always changing. We can become stronger and stronger and smarter and more confident, right? But there's always going to be challenges that come up. And there's just, like I said earlier, there's just something so amazing about having somebody support you, reflect back to you, hold space for you. And really, it's not, the work that I do is I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I'm here to clear all of the garbage and the cobwebs out of the way for you so that you can find your own truth, because you have all the answers inside of you already, you know? It's just that there's crap that's blocking you from connecting to those answers, right? So, you know, I just want to say that I really, really, really hope that these 3 days have been helpful for you guys. I hope you have gotten a lot out of it. I hope you are leaving feeling inspired and lifted up and full of hope and excited to implement some of these tools and excited to go into the new year, you know, starting to work on a different relationship to yourself and your sensitivity. And I hope you know how fucking important you are, how much this world needs you, how magical you are, how amazing you are, and you deserve your own love more than anything else in the world. And so I really just hope that you guys are inspired by this, and you know, or maybe it's just a gentle reminder that you needed to come back to the truth that you already knew, right? Or maybe it was brand new information for you. Wherever you're at, I hope that you got something out of this. And I, you know, I'm so grateful that I am able to do this work and bring this information out into the world. It is really the greatest gift for me to be able to do this. And I'm so grateful for all of you that hopped on and watched these videos. And then, you know, as I mentioned in day 1 and day 2, if you're loving this content, if it's resonating with you, if you are feeling the call to have a more, you know, sacred container of support in the new year, I really encourage you to reach out to me. I will put the link below to schedule a free 30-minute call with me where we can talk about my Sensitive Badass coaching mentorship that is going to start February 1st. And if you didn't have a chance to watch day 1 or day 2, this is a really beautiful, powerful, transformational container of just me and 10 women. And we are going to be together and working together for 6 months. You will get 3 individual one-on-one coaching sessions with me per month. And then we will have a group call at the end of the month where we all come together. We are there to celebrate each other, lift each other up, support each other, create this really, really beautiful, magical container where all of these different women come together having felt so misunderstood. And then we're going to have this amazing group. We'll have a private Facebook group. You will have full email access to me the entire 6 months, so that if anything comes up between sessions or you forgot to tell me something or you need to ask a question, you can email me anytime. There is a ton of bonuses that come along with this. There's going to be free classes that I'll be teaching. I have a resource portal. There you get one of my Sensitive Badass shirts, my Sensitive Badass digital course. This is really, I have done everything I can to create the most supportive, comprehensive experience for you guys for the next 6 months, for the 10 women that choose to gift this to themselves. And we're really gonna go in, like I said before, and we're gonna go into your garden, and we are gonna make the most beautiful, loving foundation for you that is gonna set you up not only for 2018, but for the rest of your life. These are our skills and the healing and the limiting belief clearing and all these skills and tools and healing and love that you received during the 6 months. You're going to carry that with you for the rest of your life. And it would be my greatest honor to be your support person, to be the one that helps walk you back home to yourself and your truth, and to build these really strong roots with you. So if you guys are feeling inspired at all, please do hop on the phone with me. I can give you lots more details there, and we can chat and see if this would be a good fit for you or not. And if it's not, that's fine too. Please continue to, you know, check out my stuff and follow me, and I will continue to give you guys as much free content as I can and support you in any way that I can. I deeply, deeply love my tribe of sensitives, and I'm so grateful that you all have spent these 3 days with me. I hope that your new year is absolutely amazing. Have a fantastic New Year's Eve, and I will be talking to you all very soon. All right, bye.